You've seen it and maybe experienced it yourself. Friends who keep running into toxic relationships with no future in sight. Friends who consistently choose demanding jobs despite the toll it takes on their health and happiness, despite there being other options. Why do we keep doing things that hurt? Why is it that we just cannot quit? The answer may lie in the web of psychological and behavioral patterns that govern our decisions. And two concepts might give us some clues about why we keep doing what hurts: sunk cost bias and repetition compulsion. First, let's talk about sunk cost bias, and to talk about it is to talk about mountain climbing. On June 3, 1995, Jeffrey Rubin was on the verge of completing his lifelong dream, climbing the 100 highest peaks in New England. He had climbed 99 of the peaks and was climbing the last one, Fort Mountain in Maine. When the weather turned bad and fog came in, Jeffrey tried to power through, even though his partner decided to turn around. His body was found several days later. He apparently fell to his death. Now, what's worth noting is that Jeffrey Rubin was an intentionally known scholar who spent decades studying cognitive bias. Sunk cost bias is one of them. It was in his domain. He studied it before, yet despite having a deep understanding of what makes people irrational, he was unable to quit. He, too, got caught in sunk cost bias. The more we invest in something, the more attached and committed we feel, the harder it is to quit. The sunk cost bias is the voice in your head that whispers, "You've already invested so much, you can't quit now." It's when you continue a harmful relationship, job, or habit solely because of the time, effort, or resources you've poured into it. It's the reluctance to let go because you keep telling yourself you have put so much of yourself into it. So you keep doing what hurts for the sake of your past, but not for your future. It happens to everyone. The best we can do is try to be mindful about it. Most of us are blinded by sunk cost bias at some point in our life. However, if you keep finding yourself caught in an endless cycle of traumatic events and toxic relationships, then psychology might have another explanation. It's called repetition compulsion. Coined by Freud, repetition compulsion is a psychological phenomenon where you unconsciously repeat patterns of behavior, often those linked to trauma or distress from your past. For example, people keep running into doomed relationships with dysfunctional partners. Despite all the pain, they find themselves gravitating to similar situations, time after time. It's not because they seek suffering. No, most of the time, it might stem from early experiences of emotional neglect, maybe from their parents, maybe from their early relationships. So they kept having this subconscious attempt to rewrite their own past story to find closure, to make sense of what happened, but for a place of control. Another example might be a person who consistently chooses demanding jobs, despite the toll it takes on their health and happiness. On a surface level, it seems like a pursuit of success or financial stability, but deeper down, it might reflect the belief that one must endure hardship to be worthy, possibly mirroring early life experiences where love and attention were conditioned on overachievement. Repetition compulsion, in short, is our psyche's attempt to gain mastery over our past. It's as if, by replaying these scenarios, we are seeking a different outcome, a chance to correct, heal, or understand what once went wrong. But more often than not, we find ourselves merely reinforcing the pain, trapped in a cycle that seems almost inescapable. So we get caught in the current and we keep doing what hurts us. The problem is that we often don't realize we're in a repetition compulsion circle. Instead of actively taking control of our own story, we may subconsciously expect toxic people to do our healing for us, or to make up for the harm done by someone else. This expectation continues to keep us from removing ourselves from the situation when we need to, and make us vulnerable to the same vicious cycle. Is there any way out? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I hope I have, I do, but it's different for everyone. It might take a lot of reflection to get there. It might take a lot of trial and error. What's important is that you know this. It's not your fault. It never is. And you can and will get out of these terrible stories you might have been telling yourselves. And I'm with you. I'm figuring these things out by myself. I'll tell you when I'm there.